Hello everybody, this is Loci or WayOfLoci and welcome to the No Hit Podcast. Here it's my job to interview extraordinary gamers in the realms of challenge running, whether that be no hit runs, completing games in their entirety without taking a hit or a single point of damage, speedruns, completing games that would normally take hours in mere minutes, and other such ventures. Today's guest is Klampscast, that is Klampscast, Klampscast, on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Klamp's an experienced no hit runner, having completed a variety of no hit runs, including all the main games from Fromsoftware, including the entire Dark Souls series, Demon's Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, as well as other games such as Cuphead and Hollow Knight, all completed no-hit, as well as being a moderator and website editor for the Team Hitless community, a community of dedicated no-hit runners of various games, as well as a content creator on YouTube, producing educational historical videos of famous mathematicians on the YouTube channel ModernDayMath. In this conversation, we go through Klamp's approach to each of these games, his progression into all bosses in certain games, as well as stand-up comedy, and the similarities between spicy food and hitless running. Hope you enjoy this conversation with Klampscast. Right, Klamps, appreciate taking the time to go on the podcast, dude. Welcome. How's it going, dude?
It's going all right. You know, the typical waking up. I'm like almost there, but it's still there's still like that little bit of like my vision it needs to be there more.
That bit of halfway between awake and sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Water and the dry bagel and yogurt that I ate. The yogurt wasn't dry, but the bagel, I ran out of cream cheese, so.
Saddest stories of 2022.
It's all right. The grocery store is an event for after, you know?
So I wanted to query something that may have traits of hitless running, which is spicy food. I saw that you've done a couple of very spicy things, such as like a pizza with ghost peppers and a fowl curry, which is a hotter than a vindaloo for people who might not be aware. And I was just wondering what the appeal of that kind of thing is for you, if you do that more often.
So, I mean, I guess this kind of ties into like why I like challenge running. I just like seeing how far I can push myself. And like with spice, you can just keep upping the level. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like I don't mess with spice as much these days, though I still like the kick. But yeah, I started just going really, really hard. It's like, besides just liking the challenge, it's also the effect that it has on your brain. So like when you eat something super spicy and you're like, whoo, and you're like kind of like really in it, it's almost like uncomfortable. When your brain, I think it starts releasing endorphins, so you get like a little high from it, and you just feel like kind of wild. Like you feel really good when you come down from it.
Yeah, I had a ghost pepper once a long time ago, and it's had some very negative effects afterwards. Let's say, but is worth for at least the experience, even though that sounds very weird.
Eating a ghost pepper is a whole nother story. Like I've generally messed with hot sauce, unless it's like I guess like vindaloo or like curry, right? Eating actual peppers, which is what they threw into that fall curry, that the way that the heat like ends up expanding in your esophagus and like ultimately your stomach, it's just so much more intense. Whereas I found, of course, with hot sauces that while of course it's all going down the same passageway, it seems to be more concentrated locally, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's oof. Yeah, eating an entire ghost pepper, eh?
Moving on to a separate form of potential masochism, as some people may see it as.
Yeah.
What was your first introduction to no hit running?
So I don't exactly remember who. I think it was probably Gino Machino or Squilla. I'd like to say that. Yeah, I don't know. My buddy told me about Twitch once I started getting into FromSoft games back in 2018. And yeah, I just like stumbled upon one of them. Yeah, I just started following some folk. I'd like to say it was actually Squilla. I think besides my art buddy, he was like my first no hitter that I followed. But yeah, I didn't really know much about it. I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy that they went through this entire game and they're getting hit, because like this game like smashed me to bits. But yeah, I don't know. I just started getting like progressively more into challenge running, and after doing some no death, I was like, okay, I guess I'll give no hit a try.
What was the point of like going from this is interesting to I want to try this?
That's just, I think, let's see. I like quit playing Dark Souls 3 for a year because I was really butthurt over Nameless King. Came back for the DLCs. And then after I got through like the, all that, I was like, oh, like let me mess around with no death. I like didn't think that I could really do no hit. I was like, that's like a little too intense. Maybe I could do speed running. But then after like finding out how purely enjoyable routing was, I was like, oh, maybe maybe I could do this. But I'd had previous experience with Sekiro too, and like I'd worked on a no death in like June of 2019. So I was like, you know what? Let me mess around with Shora, like all bosses no death, and then see if maybe I could do hitless. Then after that, like all bosses no death, and then I think my like little stint with Dark Souls 3 all bosses no death. I forgot the exact order, but I was like, okay, what's up, Shora? And I was watching a ton of speed runs to try and pick up strats to be able to get through it. And boom, after a couple weeks, I like got the run, and I was like, oh, that was very manageable.
Speedrunning's such a good or useful tool or resource for finding out strats. Like, there's so many ways, just like, this is the most efficient way to do it, and then you can sort of mold it into hitless with a lot of things.
Oh, yeah. I think it was like each night, especially during the Immortal Severance no-hit, I was just like watching Aggie while practicing.
Yeah. God.
Yeah, lots of great intel there.
Did you ever delve into speedrunning yourself, or?
Not really. I mean, like, I remember when I was playing a lot of, like, because Dark Souls Remastered, that was my first stint with FromSoft. I was so into it. And I was like trying to find out ways myself without really watching any speedruns to just like very quickly go through the game. And I think the fastest I got for an any percent was like 5.5 hours at that time. And I mean, now, given, you know, all the work I've put in a no-hit, could definitely, you know, already gotten sub 2. But yeah, I don't know. I was like thinking about doing it with Sekiro at one point and Bloodborne, but there's like a lot of strats that right now I like, one, like don't really have the time for with work kicking my ass, but two, I just don't know if I care enough to get down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in Bloodborne, trying to do very speedy gask, I'm like, dude, you were the bane of my existence. I wish that you would stop being this way. And then like the glitches too, because like ultimately, if I were to do speedrunning, I'd probably want to get to the point of doing unrestricted all bosses for some of these.
Is it the appeal of doing like the glitches are cool, or what is it about unrestricted?
So, I mean, since I was young, I actually really, really enjoyed like the game breaking aspects of speedrun. Like literally just getting through the game as fast as possible is just very cool. I just like racing. So it's like that's just a necessary evil in terms of like getting through the game as fast as possible. So that's really it. I mean, some of them actually do look pretty cool. Like it's like, because it's, you know, the game breaking stuff is like somewhat mystifying. So like for instance in Dark Souls 3, when you look at the death cam, right? Like like the Wilhelm skip, shit is crazy to look at. And it's also stupidly technical. Like there's so much more practice you have to put in to get some of those down. I think I remember Tricky was saying when he was like first getting into the all bosses speed running, he practiced Wilhelm skip for like 8 hours one day, and he was like, it's still so difficult to get.
It's those sort of things where it's just like you spend so, like, it don't really matter how much time, in fairness, like you have to get to that point, and then it's such a small percentage to get it, and then if not, it's a reset.
Exactly. And so there's that extra level of frustration. So it's like I like adding speedy elements when I can to no-hit runs, but it's nice to know that I can kind of fall back like when I need to, like hang out with chat for a second, go use the restroom, like whatever, right? Like you can actually like hang out when you want to instead of just like speed.
I'm impressed by anyone who is gonna try go into Sekiro speedrunning at the moment, with Seki just having an absolute monopoly over the world records.
He's like breaking his records like every run.
It's mad stuff.
Yeah.
So Sekiro was the first one, and then after that was into that was weird wording. DS3 and then Dark Souls 3, and then Dark Souls. Was that in terms of preference or interest, or?
Yeah, so I had more experience with DS3 and Dark Souls than I had Dark Souls 2 at that point, because like I hadn't played Dark Souls 2 in say like 2 years or something. I think after I got the Dark Souls 3 no hit, which I can go a bit more into after. But after I got that, I think I had like this 12-hour stream where, I don't know, I was like playing something, and then I was like, oh, let's play Dark Souls 2, and the gutter made me want to kill myself. So I was like, fuck this game. I'll do Dark Souls first, and then we'll figure out when I actually want to do Dark Souls 2. Because I was like, wow, this was way more enjoyable 2 years ago.
When it was nice and chill and could get hit and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever equate that experience to chill, because Dark Souls
Well,
2 is
true,
so ganky. Like, the running sections, they really paid the utmost homage to Demon Souls. But definitely, like, yeah, I coming straight from Dark Souls Remastered, Dark Souls 2 is the only game I could play on my, at the time, potato laptop. So I was like, oh, more Dark Souls, cool. And so it was just cool traversing the ridiculous world that they had and getting ganged left and right. But yeah, I guess if we use chill in terms of like, oh, yeah, actually being able to get hit, then yeah. But still, the gutter. The gutter.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go into DS3, and I especially want to know the difference you found going into that after, because we always like compare Sekiro to Souls, but it's interesting going from Sekiro into Souls. How was it the change up in getting used to the difference?
So at first I was starting to route the Dark Souls 3 run while I was still running Immortal Severance. And that was getting confusing. So I was like, as I got my PB down for Immortal Severance, I was like, okay, like let's not mess with my muscle memory. So I just started like running straight Sekiro. But it was since I had done the like this all base game bosses death list for DS3 and then the all bosses death list for Sekiro, like pretty close to each other. It wasn't the hardest transition, but I definitely, yeah, like Dark Souls 3 was a longer run. Like with Shora it was around 50 minutes that I got the run, and then Immortal Severance it was like an hour and hour 7. So then I was going to a run that like was sometimes, if I, depending on deaths that I had in a run, it would be 2+ hours. So it was largely adjusting to that. And then, yeah, also just trying, oh my God, Prince's teleport. Yeah, it was, sorry, go on.
Before, so was this before the door cheese was found?
The door cheese?
With princes, where you can like roll against the wall to.
Oh no! I was definitely using that. But
okay.
I wasn't doing the true cheese where you wait for them. Like the only thing I was doing was like at the beginning of phase 2, go into roll, and then I'd go into fight. Because they're actually like a pretty fun fight. They killed plenty of my runs, especially towards the end. But they're just a fun fight, so I was like, screw it, like let's fight them. But I know plenty of people they're all about a free princess.
I was gonna say better men than I.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. It's all a matter of preference, right? But yeah, even on this all bosses run that I'm working on now, I still much prefer to fight them, and I fight them like basically towards the end again.
I do want to go into longer runs, but I'm gonna stick with the any percents for now. And next one to talk about is Bloodborne, which also could have a sense of being quite different from the DS3 or DS run, or was that how you found it?
Yeah, it's a very precise run. Like going from, honestly, even like comparing to Sekiro, like it's a fast run, but it's like with Sekiro, let's see how to like describe it. Like with like Sekiro and like the Souls games, I felt like certainly like there are strats or whatever, but you can still kind of like improvise, you know what I mean? Whereas in Bloodborne, there's a level of improvisation for some of the bosses, but for the most part, it's like very algorithmic. So if you fuck up the algorithm, then you're just kind of screwed and it's reset time. Like I'd say where you don't see the algorithm is, I guess, Shadows, maybe Miko, but there's still like a bit of algorithm in there. And then Mergo's Wet Nurse.
So as an example of like, as Klamp described it as algorithmic boss would be Vicar Amelia, where there is a set order of strikes you can do on each of her limbs, which if done in a set order with a set amount of damage will result in quotations a free fight. But if you mishit a different body part or don't judge your stamina correctly or make any error in that system or in those steps, you will be in a lot of trouble, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, there are still ways to recover. Like, it's still good to actually know how to fight the boss, but like without that. But I got that algorithm down. Because Definitely, I was like, whatever, I'll just end the, like, it wasn't any marathon running, so I was like, whatever, if the run dies right now, it's like, I was optimizing it to just basically get there in under 20 minutes, which made the resets that's another element to just trying to add speediness, like some speed elements to these no-hit runs, is just it makes the resets way less painful.
The last one of the From Software series I want to talk about before going into some variety is Demon Souls, which yours was completed on the original, correct?
Yes.
How was that as an experience with all its frame goodness?
So initially I was actually running it at 60 FPS, which was dope, but because the PS3 version wasn't initially intended for that, it was causing very weird shit to happen. Like, for instance, on Phalanx, you'll like their motion, like the way they move gets very weird, and the way that they'll throw their like, forgetting word, I guess they're spears, right? They're spears.
Yeah.
Like everything, like all the physics were just not working as expected, and for like another instance of like physics issues was the Shrine of Storm skip, like where you can just basically very quickly go to Adjudicator or whatever. So yeah, there was like really odd things that were happening. I think I got down to like PB. I'd like to say I got down to PB3 before I went back to 30 FPS, and then things were like working as expected. So then I was like even more. I was getting way more consistent. Weedlord Gaben, he just committed to 60 FPS. He was like, I can't be arsed to fucking deal with with 30 FPS, and I was like, all right, man. Even if you're seeing this weirdness and it's messing with consistency, he's like, fuck it.
What was the like final straw that made you go, okay, I'm just gonna do this in 30 FPS?
I think it was actually Tower of Latria. I think I kept running into weird issues in the man-eaters split, and it wasn't like man-eaters themselves. It was just like there was just like some bugginess, I think, with the gargoyles, but I don't exactly remember. I do remember losing a lot of runs on 60 FPS to that specific split, though, like on the running section. And then there was, I think, in the second split of Shrine of Storms, I think there was also a skip that kept fucking up there too. I ended up dropping it, but I was like, I blamed it on 60 FPS as well. So there was a whole slew of problems that I was like, this isn't worth it, man. My sanity's breaking.
And Demon Souls isn't. I know there's some very quick runs nowadays, but Demon Souls is quite a long run, if I believe right.
Well, so I like leveraged Zoodle's hybrid route. It's like primarily sorcery, but so my run was like 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Yep.
Whereas if you're doing melee, I think people started getting it down, but that's, I think, typically like between 2 hours and 45 minutes to like 3.5 hours. I remember Dobby for the God Run 2, his Demon Souls run was like 4 hours.
That's
I
say commitment, but that's on top of the God Run as well. Total God Run 2 as well.
Yeah, like, I mean, I think he had that as fourth game. But yeah, I remember talking to him about it, and he was like, yeah, like, there's so much meme in this game that I'm just trying to be as safe as possible. So, like, I'll do a 4-hour run as long as I get the run.
Before I go to a variety here, just so Klamps was the first person to have completed all games that Team Hitless had on their roster, so to speak, prior to Resident Evil. So that included all the From Software games, Cuphead and Hollow Knight. So I want to go into Cuphead and Hollow Knight, but I just want to query if that was intentionally done, like you saw that no one had done all of them and that's what you went for, or was it just the variety aspect that you wanted?
Well, it was general interest. I really liked Cuphead, and before I got into no-hit, like basically the beginning of 2020, beginning of 2020, I started getting back into it, and I was trying to like go through expert, and then I was like, you know what, screw expert, man. I'm just gonna, or like I was trying to get S rankings or whatever. I was like, let me just mess around with no death, and it was, at that time I was just kind of burnt out from Cuphead, but I always wanted to like return to it. So like after like 8 months off, I was like, let's go back. We just got Dark Souls no hit and Bloodborne no hit, so let's dabble. And, you know, especially like seeing what Sublime was doing, I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, makes it look so easy.
Yeah, I mean, and he was very helpful with it too. Like he reached out, like he would coach me a bit. We'd like hang out, like do Cuphead stuff, play chess, just shoot the shit. Like Really cool, dude. So that was like really motivating. But again, I still had to take because I was just getting. I got like the no death in 4 days, and then went to no hit, got to PB6 it like immediately, and then I was just stuck. Like that's a game where like you can get your hits down really quickly, and then actually you're just chiseling it down. I got like 8 PB1s in that. The benefit is a very fast run, but my god, everything is just assaulting your senses.
Yeah, I've spoken to Sabai about this. It's in like comparison to Dark Souls, or at least the percentage of the run itself is a lot more focused, because even though it's a shorter run, pretty much every minute of it is a boss or focus time.
Yes.
Because there's so little time walking between the areas. It's just like boss to boss to boss.
Yep. And then if you include the what is it? The run and guns too. Like it's still, you're still walking around the overworld very minimally.
Always doing something.
Yep. Yeah, but yeah, that game really strengthens your reflexes, man. Like I thought I had good hand-eye coordination before I ever played Cuphead, and then I realized just how far I still needed to go.
So the next level above.
Yeah. But so just going back to your question of like, notice that not all of the games have been done. Yeah, I mean, we had just added Cuphead and Hollow Knight, so I was like, you know what? Since I've gotten through all these any percents, like I might as well just do it because I like both of these games. So Hollow Knight, I was like, I can wait on that because I'm not like as pumped about it as Cuphead. Don't get me wrong. Hollow Knight definitely gave me the same feeling as Dark Souls 1 when trying to, go through the game first time, because the exploration is just so magnificent and what great lore, right? But I just had, I was like, I really want to do Dark Souls 1 all bosses first. I was like, let me go back to my Fromsoft boys real quick.
Just stay on Cuphead for a quick sec. Was there any particular bosses that repeatedly had issues or had jank, let's say, or both?
So at first it was the flower, Cagney, right? But, the fact that I had them as first boss, like, eventually I started figuring it out. So, yeah, Isle 1 wasn't really an issue anymore after that. Isle 2, for a while before I changed my route up to, like, really optimize getting lobber, I'd like to say, yeah, Dragon was a real problem. I also made my life very difficult by not doing, like, if you look in other runs, they leverage, I always forget names, but like, like the spread.
Oh yeah, spread weapon.
Yeah, people would use like a combination of spread and lobber, whereas I used roundabout, lobber, and pea shooter. And so yeah, Sublime was like, oh, you made your run 50% harder by doing that. I was like, that's what I was used to. That in and of itself added difficulty to some of the bosses too, but like, yeah, I'd say the dragon and Wally, like, of course, Beppy, right? But I like, per Sublime's advice, I decided to just do the hardest bosses that I could, like, first, just so there's less pressure towards the end of the aisle. But like, yeah, like Wally, for whatever reason, I guess in the 4th phase, I kept like getting greedy or like misgauging like what I could really do and just getting like hit. Aisle 3, the robot dude. I started getting pretty good at B after a while, but the robot dude and Medusa, and then of course Devil. I think I got like 3 or 4 one-hit runs to Devil.
Cuphead's such an interest. Like it's if you haven't played Cuphead, I like highly recommend it. It's one of the most unique gameplays out there, especially the bosses. It's super interesting considering by just appearances, if you've seen like a trailer or clip, you wouldn't really potentially understand it as one of the most difficult games in the last few years, but it is up there.
Oh, it is, yeah. Like we have both agreed upon, the attack on the senses.
Yeah,
buddy.
So much going on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Especially when you go into like one of the first bosses in Isle 1, or one of the bosses in Isle 1 is Hilda, and Hilda on expert, it's
insane.
So many things on the screen at once.
It's insane. See, when I was going for the S ranks, it took me forever to like actually get through it, and then I was at like I think 2 seconds off, so I got an A+.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, I don't want to do this again. But yeah, it's, oh my god, especially like the amount of green airplanes that come through, and they all shoot like 5 missiles at once.
Oh yeah, such more spread out than.
Oh yeah, that expert mode is so. I think all the airplane levels just gave me like insane agita. when dealing with expert.
Yeah, once you had the A plus, it should have been like, okay, I'm just like gonna call a friend and see if we can sync up. Like, so yeah.
Although with the co-op, I mean, everything's doubled there.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember Sublime was actually going. I think internet connection was ultimately the issue, but I think it was with was it SB Wolf his name?
Yeah.
They were attempting to do co-op hitless at one point.
That must be interesting.
Oh yeah, really the biggest problem in that is internet. That's the real boss. that lag.
It's the point of why is every majority no hit runs done offline, because it's the worst.
Yeah.
Lag invasions, everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know, even like when you're streaming, right? Like usually it's just you, but when you get the co-op in the mix, it's just like forget about it, dude. Like I remember with the Widers, I think they were doing a no-hit co-op tournament that I narrated, and I just remember like I think at various points there was like bugginess from some folk because it was like, oh, I got a little delay on this end.
I want to go into events later on to talk about that, but just to go on to the last game of the any percent, I should say, Hollow Knight. How did you find then going into that as the last 90% I believe you've done?
Yeah, that was the last 90%. Then I just went to all bosses. So that was pretty cool. I got it faster than I thought I was gonna get it. It was like Scott, his routing was just brilliant. I was initially trying to use Hill 1030s because it was like highly influenced from Fireborn and Spiral, which we know Spiral is also very influenced from Fireborn. But I didn't really like using Fragile Heart.
Strength, do you mean?
Oh yeah. Oh man, I always mix it up. Yeah, Fragile Strength. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So going and getting it from like our cricket buddy or whatever, or maybe Giant Ant. See, memory, it's strong. But yeah, I wanted to just speed things up, and I found that Fury was really, really brilliant at actually speeding up the bosses. So the first half I was like furying, and then once I think Scott convinced me to get, what is it, Soul Twister? No, what is
Spell Twister, yeah.
Spell Twister, yeah. It made the second half so much more comfy, dude. Oh my god. And so at that point, like obviously Watchers and the Hollow Knight, hardest bosses of that run. Like after that, Watchers became a breeze, and then it was just worrying about acid skip.
Always an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I started getting it pretty consistent, but it's like after Watchers, your nerves, like this was pre-spell, Spell Twister. Your nerves are just kind of like up there. So I was like, all right, like we're switching this up. We're gonna do the Metroid first. And we'll save Watchers for before the Hollow Knight, since it's so much easier now with Spell Twister. Like you can just get so much more greedy. It made the Hollow Knight so much easier too.
Yeah, definitely. Did you get Spell Twister before Soul Warrior as well?
No, I'd battle Soul Warrior, get Shade Soul, right?
Soul Sanctum,
yeah. And then just go through Soul Sanctum, because it's like pretty free after that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, if I did it before, boy, Soul Sanctum would have been way scarier.
Yeah, the biggest trolls that are those Soul Twisters.
Dude, yeah, they're so like that was another thing with getting Fury, was it made dealing with those guys easier on the way up through City of Tears. And or at least that one guy, like when he's like, oh, he's a boss, and then all of a sudden he's everywhere in Soul Sanctum. So yeah, I found it to be like a pretty, like it was just the Hollow Knight he was Cinder. I just called him Cinder. He was so tough. So I was just glad I like kept it together enough when I actually got the run, because it didn't really take me that long. I think in total it was like 18 days.
Ooh, nice. Speedy.
Yeah, like I was just, I had just started my job at that time, so I was like, cool, we can get this out of the way before I really have to start working. I'm still training.
Oh, Fiore, that 75% boost, RTSR be jealous.
Dude, it's so good. It's too good, in fact. But it was also it was nice to not have to get King's Idol. You know what I mean? Or whatever that was, like when you're going through Crystal Peaks. So tons of perks with getting Fury.
So with those 8 games, how would you rank them in terms of like difficulty, enjoyment, if you had like a quick breakdown or quick like list of them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think Bloodborne's probably my favorite. Largely because even though I would definitely get really frustrated at points, I ran the all bosses for like 5 months and was still pretty into it. Obviously, after I got the run and was like training for the tournament. I was like, well, it would be nice to go back to DS3. I seemed to not get as tilted as I would with some of the other games. So yeah, I might mark Bloodborne as my favorite. Honestly, Cuphead was pretty fun, but remarkably frustrating. All right, let's see. Let me think. But I'd say probably Bloodborne. Screw it, I'll put Cuphead as number 2. Demon Souls actually was a really enjoyable run as hybrid. Dark Souls, Hollow Knight, and let's see, DS3, Dark Souls 2. I love Dark Souls 2, but like I haven't touched it in like a year. Did I forget a game? I totally forgot a game.
Sekiro.
Oh, Sekiro. Yeah, I haven't touched that in a while too. I'd put that over DS2 actually. So yeah, wow, that's a tough one. I'm gonna have to rethink that, but that's the list I'm given now.
Yeah, no worries. And it is like there is a lot of games there and a lot of like intricacies with each one. So yeah, I imagine it would take longer, but as a quick one.
Yeah, Sekiro actually was a stupidly fun run as well, just because it was so fast. But again, it's like I touched it for Mortal Journey no hit, and then I was like, I'm just not. I just can't. We're going to another game.
The joys of Inner Father and his Mist Ravens.
Dude, okay. So yeah, Inner Father is the worst. Owl 2 though is my favorite boss in that game. That might be actually my favorite FromSoft boss. He's so good.
It's such a fun fight as well because there's almost like no pause in it. I mean, I know it can like boot you away and such like, but there's no pause. You're staying engaged, and it's sort of just like a 1-to-1 fight. There's no like bringing in mobs. There's no any messing about like that. It's
well, in phase 2, you got the owl being all cheap, but it's pretty manageable compared to Inner Father. Cheapo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that he's not like throwing poison onto you like, OG Father or 3 years in the future Father. Yeah, the rhythm is just so nice to get into there too. It's such a dancey fight.
Yeah. Genny's one of the like I think Genny's everyone's first super like wall in whenever you start Sekiro no hit.
Oh yeah.
But that is still one of the best fights both in vanilla playthrough and for no hit, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean he teaches you how to play the goddamn game. Like I remember I was still trying to play it very Souls-like instead of like actually learning how to parry. And then while he is pretty manageable without, parrying, he showed you how essential it is to get that skill down. And so after that, like I remember just like really getting so angry at him after getting him down. I was like, okay, I think I can maybe hold my own now. I've stepped away from just playing this Souls-like. Because that was like the biggest thing too. Like whenever people are like, "Oh, I'm trying to play Sekiro," any advice? I'm like, "Don't play it like Souls."
Yeah, forget it. Forget Souls.
Yeah,
just go into it.
Yeah, get your parry game strong.
Well, that was like an advantage, like people who had potentially never played a FromSoftware game who went into it, because everyone who went in was like, "I'm a veteran. I've played DS3 and that was quick and Bloodborne and such like." Yeah. And then Sekiro was like, yeah, this isn't that game.
And that's exactly what Miyazaki and team are going for, right? They're just like, listen, we know that all of these FromSoft heads are going to be like, oh, Souls, yeah, Bloodborne. So he was like, we got to throw them off.
And it appears for Elden Ring, it's going to be like, well, I've played Breath of the Wild, so this should be fun.
Yeah, right? Dude, honestly, I'm waiting for like all the glitches with the horses. It's going to be fantastic.
Oh,
it's going to be hilarious.
It's going to be interesting.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, I'm waiting for like I expect there will be like a double jump with the horses, and then you can like find a way to maneuver just like double jumping up a wall like infinitely.
I'm interested in like the world's the open world aspects of it. If it ends up being akin to Breath of the Wild, where they're gonna find a way to skip right to the end immediately, I don't think that's a like an impossible like thought if it's gonna be as they're describing it.
Well, I figure what you'll have to do. You'll probably have to do some extra things, kind of like what was it in Dark Souls 1 with the force quit route, where you like fall where you'd place the Lord Vessel. You like fall and then force quit at like the right time, and then you're just like past the gate. You're in the kiln. So I figure if like that is something that exists, it's gonna be similar to like, oh, you have to like get through a few bosses first, like maybe like 2 or 3.
And it's weird, like we do all this theorizing, or I've done quite a bit, and it's just like we've seen one really good trailer and one like leaked bit of footage of a guy jumping.
Yeah, which I still haven't checked out actually, but I heard like people are just like, oh, that's why it's delayed.
Oh, it looks like an old build. It looks like from ages ago.
Oh,
It
for
looks exactly the
sure.
same as like the leaked footage.
Definitely the alpha build.
I do like leaks can be interesting, but it's like so many people just like go opinion first, game later, or something like that. Just like wait for the game, see how it is. And do it then.
Yeah. Theorizing is for sure fun, but yeah, we won't know at all like until it's actually out, and that's the beauty of FromSoft too. Is like since they like to break trends. Which is why Miyazaki in general is like, yeah, I don't really like sequels. Like, since I like to break trends, we're always just going to be like, there's going to be something, probably like some similar things, but for the most part, they're going to bring on their innovation. It's going to be really very interesting what new mechanics they bring on.
Yeah, I mean everything that's gone from Dark Souls and to an extent like Dark Souls came from Demon Souls has been different each time. Like Bloodborne had the trick weapons and the new dodge mechanics of Visceral. Sekiro obviously one of the best combat systems that's I think exists in gaming.
Dude, actual butter.
Horse.
Actual butter.
And now we've got a horse, so that's going to be something different as well.
Yeah, we've got some Red Dead, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. We actually are just Ishin. This is how Ishin became Ishin. the conception of the GAT. Here we go.
Oh, I'm just waiting to see how customizable for someone to do a Gyobu run in Elden Ring.
Oh god. Yeah. They actually are gonna introduce all the swagger, dude. You're even gonna be able to get haircuts. They're gonna throw in a little GTA San Andreas in there.
So you've done like we've just gone through so many runs. I want to separate them as the Dark Souls-esque runs. That's Demon Souls and the Dark Souls, and then the Sekiro and Bloodborne separate, and then the 2D ones on another side. And I'd be interested to know your approach to learning these runs and if there's a difference between those three sections, like the Dark Souls, the Sekiro and Bloodborne, which have slightly different things, and then the 2D platformers.
So yeah, all right. So at least like with Souls, right? So just I guess I'll talk just generally. A common theme, like in terms of learning for all of them, has generally been okay. Step one, let's figure out this route, right? Like, or just like a rough frame of the route, and make some save files for the bosses. And so the routing can take anywhere from immediately this is what I'm doing to like. For instance, what I've been doing for Dark Souls 3 all bosses, where I'm still like basically pinning what my route is. I'm down to PB7 and I'm like, I still don't know exactly how I want to do this ending bit, but yeah, then I'll just go and like I'll try to learn the bosses that are really giving me issues that I'm not really used to, because some of these games, I just kind of like I played once and then I was like, okay, cool, this was fun, so I like need to grind out them bosses. But so like at least for like talking Souls, I'd say the difference really is length. But yeah, I don't know. Like with Cuphead, as we said, it's like basically just a boss rush, and so that was more of just like getting used to the brutalness of all this stuff coming at you, as compared to Souls, where it's certainly there's a lot of speed, especially when we talk about Freed. It's still like slower. And for Hollow Knight, you have like you have these running sections where you could almost say like some could be comparable to running sections and like I don't know, like DS1 or something, right? Maybe less like unnecessarily like long and empty, right? But but still, right? You still have those running sections. I'd say probably the like making save files and just like having it default to a bench. There was that difference there where, okay, now I actually need to rely on debug mod. But I'd say the common theme is just, figuring out what the route is and like trying to grind that out, and then just practicing what bosses you have difficulty with. I didn't really find that there was like a vast difference between my practicing for 2D versus Souls.
Did you have any differences learning the routes from something like Souls to Hollow Knight? I say this just as I personally found the moving between rooms a lot more difficult to like visualize the route, as opposed to something like Sekiro, for instance, where you can sort of picture the way you're going.
Yeah, so definitely Hollow Knight has a very intricate map. So initially I was like, yeah, I'd say probably the first like 2 weeks I was running, I was still kind of like forgetting like what exactly the next room was going to hold. So yeah, I definitely say Hollow Knight was more difficult to visualize completely. But I feel like more in the beginning than anything. And that was consistent throughout. Like, I'd still kind of forget sometimes because there were a lot of rooms that looked like somewhat similar in the beginning. But then as you get more through the run, you start seeing more distinction, at least in the any percent, right? So yeah, visually, it was definitely way easier to get, understand the 3D world versus the 2D. But I mean, Hollow Knight's map is just so massive. Like, I think in general, like, even if it was like a 3D game, it would still be difficult. Just because there's so much happening there.
I think this could be a good tangent to go into the longer run aspects. But just one last thing on the learning. With something like Frida, being in an all boss run and thus the resets are gonna hurt more, let's say,
Yeah.
or feel heavier. At what consistency in practice do you start running the game, or at what point are you comfortable with a boss? Is it like 2 in a row, 3 in a row, or is it like a percentage, or just feeling?
So generally, when I'm practicing, I try to shoot for at minimum 3 in a row. It really depends how I'm feeling. Sometimes if it's like multiple bosses that I needed to practice, I'll just be like, all right, let me get them once, and then I'll move on to the next boss. Like, either way, I'm still getting my practice in, right? But generally, 3 is my minimum. Someone like Posse, right? He, like, when we were talking, he was like, yeah, 10 minimum. He's like, gotta get him 10 times in a row, and then I feel good. Whereas I'm like, I have to, like, I'm trying to practice a lot. I mean, he definitely was too, but I'm like, after a long day of work, I'm like, oh, if I have like 10 bosses to practice, I just don't have the time to do 10 in a row. And he works too, so I'm like, how do you have the time? But yeah, like, my approach is that I want to get the route down, so at least with this longer run, especially because I wasn't as used to the DLC before I started, like, I think I had maybe gone through the DLC 4 times haphazardly. I'm just like, you know what? I'll go through the run. I can turn on practice tool for the for the DLC, just so I can get through it, and we'll just count hits. Because once you get a hit, it's practice anyway, so who cares?
Could you talk a quick sec on the practice tools available if someone might be unfamiliar with the tools that people use when practicing these runs?
Yeah. So I actually found out about this one recently because I always wondered. I was like, how is anyone turning on no death and this other shit? So practice tool was a tool designed for speedrunners to just basically make your life way easier when practicing instead of just like relying on your save files and relying on the clunkiness of cheat engine. It just has some enhanced features to be able to, mess around. Like, you can speed your character up to get through running sections faster if it's just like, big, long, and empty. Or like you can turn on one shot, like for instance, for Freed, if you only want to practice phase 3, you can just very quickly get through phase 1 and 2 by turning on one shot and then turn it off and just practice phase 3. You can turn on no damage for both you and the boss to also to stay in the fight for quite a long time. There's cheat engine as well, which I have not gotten as acquainted with, but I know some folk are very into it. I've really only got okay with knowledgeable somewhat with it for DS2 when I was trying to practice gutter, like going down to the gutter. But those are tools that are leveraged in practice, so that way, there's just quality of life things.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that one shot. That sounds really useful for that phase practice.
Yes, I think it was Sunrun and Hemp that told me about it. Sunrun ended up sending me the link for it. But yeah, if you look up practice tools DS3, it should bring you to the GitHub. And yeah, dude, it is so, oh my god, actual heckin' game changer.
So from amazing tools to potentially a step back into your Bloodborne All Bosses run, which has a lot less tools, let's say, with the save states being USB based as opposed to
Yes.
a shareable software. How did you approach that, especially with, again, such a long run and save filing not being as user friendly per se?
So I have 2 USBs, and one of them I had like specifically for a burritos. So that way, like, if I ran into issues, like, boom, it's already ready. And then, like, if I mess up on other bosses, it's like, okay, whatever, I'll just grab them, and we'll just take this little, like, 2-3 minute break to grab it. I end of day, it actually wasn't that bad, especially once I got an SSD for my PS4. I easily cut off, like, 10 and at most 15 seconds than if I didn't have the SSD. I started getting just very used to having to switch it out. Obviously not as convenient as being on the computer, but once you get used to using the PS4 save states, it almost becomes second nature. The fact that I couldn't, like, unless I jailbroke my PS4, the fact that I couldn't use any like modding or just like any cheat engine-esque stuff, that kind of made things a bit brutal in practice, but it still wasn't that bad, especially again once I got the SSD. Like the run is so precise and there's like so much cheese that a lot of the time it was like pretty, like it wasn't the worst to practice. Now for BL4, because I like to do that at some point, the BL4 all bosses, that's gonna be we can come back to that conversation. Once I start that, I might be like, oh, fucking sucks. Fuck this game.
I natted with Eden for a while, and the joys of Blood Level 4 were explained very well.
Yeah. I'm guessing he said it was akin to bashing your head into a wall with exposed nails.
One thing I was interested, actually, just reminded me, DS3. I was interested why, or because you've gone straight to all bosses plus DLC of DS3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that just, let's just get it all out of the way? I'm interested in doing it anyway, so let's just go and do it all at once straight away, first thing.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I did that with Bloodborne also, but because the way the route is, I just ended up always getting all main game bosses out of the way with it.
Right.
And I was thinking of having a similar route for DS3, but after, I don't know, looking at other routes, and then of course, when the Team Hitless guide came out from Geo, Sweat, and Gino, I was like, oh, I like this. This is sick. And so I've just been tinkering with a different order since then. Getting DLC out of the way as early as possible it's just way less pressure for the end. So yeah, I don't really care about just getting the vanilla bosses out of the way first. I just want a route that's comfy.
Has there been any notes, apart from the length, of course, and the additional bosses, like the obvious stuff, has there been any notable differences that you found with doing these all bosses run? Has it like been trickier to cut, like the concentration lengthening and stuff like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Bloodborne all bosses run, I was getting down, like I did a practice run offline at one point. I think it was a one-hit run. That was an hour and 59 minutes. So it's like that's like the length of some people's any percents. For like Dark Souls 3 or Dark Souls, right? So like that was like a pretty fast run. So with something like DS3 being like 3 hours, that certainly can affect your concentration. And it's like thinking about like, oh well, if I get hit like when I really low PBs, it's just gonna hurt more. But I don't know. It's like with anything, right? It's like initially when you're used to something not being as long, it'll fuck with you a bit. But as you start doing it more and more, it just gets easier to deal with. Like I think with the Dark Souls 1 all bosses run, I started getting really consistent, and then it started kind of like flying. So yeah, it's just a matter of like training yourself again to just like stay in that mode. You know what I mean? You kind of just build back up to it.
Do you mean like autopiloting kind of thing, that once you got used to it a lot more, it just was like speeding through? Or...
I guess in essence there is that element of autopilot. DS3 is a really exciting run. Like when I say exciting, I mean the beginning isn't. Like the first half hour, Highwall and Fair and Keep are not. Yeah. But like the run has so much going on in it that you're just kind of like always like, I feel like your adrenaline gets pinged quite often.
I was gonna say for the DS3 or bosses, I guess, because we mentioned about a lot of the Bloodborne bosses, and as well as within the DLC, there's a lot of systematic bosses, but there's a lot less of that or very minimal amount of that in DS3. It's a lot more reactionary, especially in going into DLC with like princes, Demon Prince and Gale and...
Yes. Oh, Gale. Oh, Gale, Half-Light. Oh, you're so great. Yeah, I more of just meant like you're training yourself to deal with the length. So it becomes less of a what's the word I'm looking for? I guess I'll just say less of a pain in the ass.
Yep.
To deal with that. You're like, okay, like obviously I've done shorter runs, but like now I'm used to this. I'm calloused in essence. So it's just you keep running it, you get used to it.
We brought up Team Hitless a few times, and you are, I believe, currently a website editor. Is that right?
Yes. I haven't been able to do as much, but yeah, on occasion I'll do like bulk, like bulk adding of things as needed.
What was your first involvement prior to anything like that with Team Hitless?
What do you mean? Like just me helping with anything?
So first discovered or first introduced, and then how that then went into being more involved in the community and into like the editorial aspect.
So yeah, I don't know. Like I joined the team at the end of like basically after I got my Immortal Severance run. Like there was an old server that actually like they hadn't updated the link on the Team Hitless Twitch team page. And so yeah, after my Immortal Severance run, like sent it to Zoodle, and then like Zoodle knew about me from that. And I think at one point I like asked if they needed verifiers and that I'd be willing to help. They thought it was a great idea, so then I became a DS1 verifier. And so they knew about me, like I was getting more known from that, right? About like, you know, the potential for help. And because I do programming, I still hope to do more with the website at some point, but yeah, because I just know how to tinker with the stuff. I was like, oh, I can maybe help with the website since they just released a new one. I wouldn't mind considering the backlog is building, just helping to add more runs. And so ping Zoodle, and you know, I'd already gotten pretty acquainted with Ghost and some other folk, and they were like, yeah, hell yeah, if you can help, let's do it. So then yeah, Ghost showed me what to do. I made basically a guide for any new folk that needed to come and edit, just to basically avoid calls, right? It's like if you need to hop on a call, boom, we're there, but it's like boom, you have this guide as reference.
It's been interesting seeing Team Hitless because I'm relatively new to the community in comparison to how long it's been around for. And it's been interesting to see the new stuff, like the events being introduced, the community's like growing exponentially. Let's go to events actually. So you mentioned having done commentated in a Wise event, and we've had these few Team Hitless events, including one at the time of the recording, a Resident Evil one this weekend.
Yep.
Let's put that in two parts actually. So you've competed in one with Ghost as one of the first ones.
Yes.
How did you did you enjoy like the event aspect or competitive aspect?
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I like Ghost she's so good.
Yeah.
she's so good at Bloodborne. So it was interesting considering, you know, how many years she has in the game versus what I've been putting in. She's been doing no-hit speedruns, so I was like, oh, like this will just be an interesting, like she had hopped into my stream when I was practicing. She was like, wow, your consistency. I'm like, oh, am I making you sweat? She's like, a little bit. But no, it was really fun. Like Ghost has helped me out a lot with runs. And it felt kind of like an honor to like battle the teacher, you know what I mean?
Just to give a little background, Goes on Ghost is one of the best no-hit Bloodborne players, being the only person who has completed all bosses plus Chalice dungeons no-hit in Bloodborne, because no one else would dare touch the Chalice dungeons.
Yeah, I don't think most people have the patience for that. To combine both the all bosses, like non-chalices with the chalices, like it's like that was a 5.5 hour run, or I think her final run actually ended up being 6.5 hours when she finally got it.
Mad stuff.
It's just most people I don't think have the patience for that. It took her 1.5 years, I think.
Interesting going into a competition with Ghost then.
Yeah, no, I mean her knowledge of the game is vast.
definitely.
I still feel like, even, you know, I ran the game basically for 5 months with that all bosses run. Like I've played my fair share of Bloodborne, but it's like, yeah, I still feel like a baby in that game. But no, it was cool. I think those events it's just a fun thing for the community, right? Like it didn't feel like oh, like gotta win, gotta do this and that. It was just like, this is just like a fun. This is like a fun thing.
It's nice
Glad they asked me.
Showcase kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the deal for most people, but some people get very competitive, so that's why I wanted to just make that clear. Like, it was just like, this is just gonna be a fun thing.
Meanwhile, you just like intensely practicing.
Dude, yeah, I was like, and again at that point, in my mind I'd moved on to DS3, so I was like, okay, just like if I can get sub 5 runs, I'll be happy. And then I think in the tournament I got like a 5 to 6 hit run. I feel like it was probably 6 hits, and that they were just so as bummed out as me with getting hit by Ligarius that they were like, it's fine, he's just getting back to Ligarius.
It's that additional thing. Like I say, it is a show. Like these events are a showcase. It's good to like be able to show some people, members in the community, but it's also it's always going to have that additional pressure of people watching, isn't it? I know like streaming is people watching, but like an event base, so it's like a no hit run, which has its own pressure plus thing. So anything decent, like anything like low single digits, is still like massively impressive under those.
Oh yeah, I mean the time constraint is the biggest thing, because when you're streaming yourself, it doesn't matter. It's like, okay, boom, if I fuck up here, we can just reset.
Yeah.
So that I didn't really find like the audience pressure to be there. It was really just the time constraint. But yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like I don't know. It might just be me, but I feel like it feels like more pressure when like you're actually seeing that amount of people, right? Like I haven't done stand up in a while, but when I was doing stand up, there was a show that I did where I think it actually was like 70 plus heads in the audience, and I was like, oh shit. I was like, this is nerve-wracking. So many eyes.
I did actually want to ask about stand-up, if that has crossed over or helped with live streaming aspects of like running.
I think that in terms of like, I don't know, I guess streams where I feel like I don't do well, I'm like, well, like whatever. Like I can kind of like brush it off easier. Because I was used to like, not just plenty of times going to mics and just getting nothing. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's definitely quite different, because with stand up, it's like certainly you can riff, but it's you'll typically be on stage for like 3 to 10 minutes depending on where you go to like, hit the mic, Jim. And it's but you're typically more like working out your material. Whereas with streaming, it's like you're kind of shooting the shit with your chat. You're kind of like having a conversation and focusing on your game. You know what I mean? But I think in terms of like, probably when like I have a stream that I'm like, oh, this didn't go like that well, I'm like, it doesn't really phase me.
Okay.
Like it maybe would had stand-up bombing not happened so much.
What is the appeal of stand-up out of interest? I know it's a bit of a tangent, but
it feels really good making people laugh. Like people that you don't know at all. Because it's just like when you make someone laugh, there's like assumably some kind of connection, whether it's a light connection or a deep one, right? It's like you've connected with them in some way. There's that, oh, I found this funny, so did you, kind of thing. And so when you can do that with like just random people that like, if it's at a show, for instance, like maybe you'll never see them again. It's just like, well, we had that connection for that moment, and it just feels so good. So yeah, I don't know. At least that's me. It's like it feels very good making people laugh.
Going into the second half of events, the commentating aspect, is that something you enjoy as well?
Yeah, I mean, I at various points I get kind of fatigued if it's like 4+ hours. But yeah, I think it's cool. It's something that I would like to lean into more at some point.
So for an example, like another Team Hitless event was you and Posse was commentating the Bloodborne with Eden and Artie, or the Artie.
Yes.
How was that experience? So
the issue there, I think it was great. Posse is an awesome person to commentate with. Like he's such a cool dude. But the issue there was I was hosting it as well as commentating.
Okay.
So I had to worry about screen changes on occasion. So there would be points where like I would be trying to multitask, and I'm a super spacey dude, right? So like I feel like at various points I would go quiet, and Posse was so good at just keeping it going. But yeah, for the most part it was great. It was just at various points where I had to like focus on the screen, I'm like, oh shit. like focus on the screen change, because obviously we were like, oh, like here's what's happening, and then like, oh, here's the hit, oh no. So it's like, oh god, gotta add the hit now. But yeah, no, that was great. And that was, after that I just had to worry about hosting. Other people were commentating, but it was a lot of fun. Like when you really know the game, it's like it's awesome seeing what other people are doing, because like they can throw you off when you're used to like what you've been doing. And then you see like those different strats, like, oh yeah, I know this strat is what like oh, this is how this works. This is why this is great,
Oh, it's funny. Me and Spiral, we commentated the Hollow Knight to run for that event, and both of the runners did weird stuff compared to the 90%, and we would both just go, "Whoa, whoa, what's going on?" Like this is
like why are they doing that? What's happening?
Where are they going?
Yeah,
it's cool when you see that, and you're like, that puts us like into the guessing game. It's just like, okay, he's going here, so he could be doing X, Y, or Z, and just
yeah. I think I remember that too. I think you guys were just like, oh, like he's probably gonna do this, and then it's like, oh, he didn't do that. What?
Oh, it's cool though. It's fun seeing the events like pick up as well. Like say the like Halloween themed now. Going into more. Is there any of the other like the additional games? Because since Cuphead, there's now been all of the Resident Evil games as well as Hades recently been added. Is there any of those that have caught your attention, or do you want to go like more in depth now into the other games?
So I think right now, because like, oh man, like I would like to do more Cuphead runs and possibly another Hollow Knight run, but I'm very much in the like, let's get the all bosses done for FromSoft, at least the Souls games, like Soulsborne games.
Does that include DS2?
Yes.
Ooh.
But I refuse to not use urine. I will use urine and dark weapon. I will not have a 6-hour run. I just don't have the patience. I mean, maybe at some point I can build it, but I'm like totally fine with doing a hybrid run. Hybrid for the win, dude. But yeah, I mean, yeah, people have asked. They're like, when are you gonna do Resident Evil, dude? And I'm thinking next year, because I played last year Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, and those were really fun. And so I think no damage in that. Like, at least from what Posse's told me, he was like, yo, compared to Souls, dude, you're gonna be relaxing. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm like, those zombies are pretty intense. But yeah, Posse said it's definitely like they're stupidly fun runs, and so I'm definitely down for that. I still have yet to play Resident Evil 1, and Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 8, any of those. So I'd like to do first playthroughs of those as well.
I've got a couple of just weird tangents that I want to go down, and then we'll go into some quick questions.
Sure.
If I don't get something caught in my throat, sorry.
No, it's fine. I listen again. Story of my life, dude. I also like. There are times where I'm talking to people and I'll literally forget mid-sentence what I'm saying. So like with like, something caught in the throat, and then also that it's like, oh, haha. Where were we?
Oh, that's why I always like so a bit behind the scenes people listening. Why I always do these recordings as audio, because I just have this notepad in front of me that I make notes as we go to make sure that I try not to forget things, because things just go out of my mind so quick, and it's just like, oh, I wrote that down. Thank God because that's the tangent I wanted to go down.
See, what I found with like the other like bit of podcasting that I've experienced, is that like with how all over the place like me and the folks that I've done this stuff with, can be, we eventually end up coming full circle. We'll say something and it's like, oh yeah, that thing that I was talking about like a half an hour ago. Let's go back to that because we didn't finish.
This is where we started.
Yeah, we've come full circle. This was crazy. What a path.
But the first small, and this will only be probably a very small thing, but I was interested in your Twitch profile pic, which is of a One Piece character. I don't know if you selected it for the term or for the caption of it, or for the character itself. I was just interested in why that particular character, or that
so
caption.
It was purely for the caption. One of my viewers, General Leon, because we had so many DS3 resets during any percent, they would just keep saying yes indeed in chat. So when Leon was reading One Piece one day, he's like, oh, this is us, dude, this is the goddamn run. So then I was like, of course this needs to be the profile picture. Like, if this is just the defining this just defines the stream, resets.
Yeah, for people who might not be aware, DS3 starts with the voiceover starts with yes indeed, as Klamp says, but it has led to so many great moments on streams where, like, because the last immediate thing that's happened is a hit. So there is profanity, there are people scream, there are people saying weird stuff, and it's always answered by yes indeed, which has led to some great moments.
Oh yeah. It's almost like a stab though, like that phrase, just yes, indeed. But at the same time, it's just like, well, here we go again. Time to embrace this lady.
And the second tangent that I wanted to go down was interest in creating maths content. So for people who might not know, Klamps has got a YouTube channel which is on majority the history of notable mathematicians. Is that right? Or I was saying it?
Yeah, there's like some folks in there that like I think people like wouldn't know about. But yeah, for the most part, it's like I've been trying to focus on more acclaimed mathematicians and physicists.
And what was the interest of that?
So in undergrad and my master's, I focused on mathematics and statistics. Well, I mean, we know stats is mathematics, but so I guess pure math and applied math, right? And I found that when I was learning the material, I was way more motivated by finding out just more of the motivation itself, like behind how this stuff came about, and getting insight into these people as just that, people. Because there's like a lot of mystifying. They're like, whoa, like you hear like just Gauss, and you're like, oh, like what a G, like that's crazy. Or like Euler, like his name is all over theorems and, you know, propositions. But like actually getting their history and like seeing, you know, like where these things came from, like, yeah, I don't know. I find that to be very cool. I don't know. Like it's I feel like that's as just as important as like, you know, building up your foundations in, you know, abstract algebra or analysis, like whatever you're doing to build things up. Like if you're just like, oh, this came out of nowhere, it doesn't really help you. But it's also cool just realizing how much of an asshole Gauss was. He was really mean. he had a rough life, but like, my God. Telling his kids, don't pursue math because you'll just disappoint me. Real nice.
Great figure right there.
Yeah, real nice. Whereas Euler was just a nice dude who got made fun of by Frederick II. He loved his faith and he loved math and physics. And Frederick was butthurt that he couldn't make like a fountain shoot water 60 feet in the air, and called Euler Cyclops. What a dick.
Yeah, I'd recommend to anyone who's interested in that topic. I had a quick gander at the complex playing video that you did, which was a bit of a nostalgia trip from my older maths days, let's say.
Yeah, complex analysis I've always found to be the coolest. There's just something. It feels so brilliant to like things that would normally be so difficult to compute to just be like, oh, complex plane, here we solved it. It's like, oh, nice, sophisticated methodology. Didn't know it could be this easy.
Oh, I can't remember what the phrase is. It's probably Einstein, but Einstein pretty much gets quoted on everything. But it's something like unless you can explain it in a simplified or to a young person, you don't know it well enough, or something along those lines. Obviously, paraphrasing.
Oh, I mean, I definitely
badly.
found that with teaching, like when I was teaching calc stuff, my God, and like tutoring stuff, buddy. Yeah, it really, really glues the information and the pathway to the exposition. And when you realize you're like, oh, well, this didn't go so well. Let me like think about this more. And then you just get, the different avenues. Since so many people experience learning differently, the different avenues to explain. Wait, what was your focus in school?
I for what we have over here for college, which is not college America, it's like the prior to university. I did further maths, which had some pure mathematics aspects to it, and then some mechanics and such like. But I've not done maths in a long time. It was just a bit of a nostalgia trip to watch through it.
Ah, okay, cool. Yeah, one of I mean, he was doing physics, but so like he needed much of that. But he was telling me at the school that he attended before going on going abroad to travel at my university. Like the first year, basically, even if you weren't pursuing any STEM stuff, a lot of people had to just take mathematical analysis.
I'm sure a lot of people were happy with that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like if even like the more math oriented folks are struggling with it, I can only imagine the people who are just like, I just want to do history, like how they were feeling.
this is going to be a weird tie back, but I just want to tie back what we just talked about to do with challenge running in the sense of the explanation having a thorough understanding. And I think the same can be done with it with No Hero and pretty much a lot of things to do with if you have an understanding of why something's being done or how something works, as opposed to just how to do something, it impacts greatly how well you can do that certain thing. So, like you had explanation to do with if you understand thoroughly the maths that you're talking about, it's so much easier to teach you. And the same way, if you understand a certain aspect of, as someone like Ghost has an absolute insane like knowledge of the game and understands how things works, is going to be always more consistent than someone who has watched a strat and knows how to do it but may not understand all the factors of it.
Right. Like you gain that knowledge from just cranking it out, right? Just like exposure, experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, her I guess like 5 years, 6 years now at this point. I don't even know, man. That's some true she's got almost got her PhD in it, dude.
Right, I'd like to go on quick questions unless there's something else we've previously talked about that you want to go any further into.
No, I think I'm okay. I would like to say though, I definitely agree. Like I think probably why no hit appeals to me so much, besides like, the challenges being really stimulating, is like like routing and just like learning, just actually learning the game way more in depth is so appealing. And like with no hit, you have to be so on point. So it's like, yeah, there is like inherently, especially when you're building it out and oh man, yeah, there I feel like there is inherently like a mathematics behind it.
I've spoken to like pretty much everyone I've talked to has had a similar thought to do with the focus that you have to put in completing a game as a no-hit run in comparison to just a vanilla playthrough makes it seem like you're playing a different game because you're seeing so much more than you would in just traditional playthrough and learning so much more, I should say, as well.
Oh yeah, I mean for sure, because I mean in the first playthrough, like certainly you can collect everything, you want to like try and figure out the lore, but it's like you're just trying to get through it. Like with some of the bosses, like the inherent difficulty that they have in FromSoft, it's like you're just like I did it, I triumphed. Whereas in the challenge runs, it's like, well, now we're understanding. We're not just getting through it. We're understanding how to do this.
If you could give one piece of advice for a new no-hit runner, what would it be?
Don't give up too soon. Like a lot of people, I feel like before they even begin, they're like, I won't be able to do this. Like this is impossible. And like they might be very impatient when trying to practice. And just like, getting the low PBs is usually, I think, where people are like, fuck this. Like, I don't really want to, this sucks. But like, that's like part of the challenge, like, is just it, like the mental fortitude that you just need to build up to get through it. So just like keep on grinding. I guess take whatever breaks you need to, but just like, yeah, it can be a little mentally taxing, but I find as a hobby, like this stuff really pays off. And I found that I'm still not the most patient person, but these runs have definitely helped my patience a lot.
It forces on you in a lot of cases. Just like
repeat that. Sorry.
Like the games in certain cases forces the patience on you to make sure that you don't rush into things.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't know. That's the advice I'd give. Is just like, especially when you're at the low PB, just don't give up. Like certainly you'll have your bad days and it'll be really frustrating, maybe even boring, but you will get through it as long as you keep grinding. I don't know if that's the best advice, but that's that's the advice I would give.
It's no worries. If one game could be released tomorrow, either an announced, unannounced, or a sequel to a game you don't think will ever exist, what game would it be?
Honestly, after watching the Bloodborne 2 ideas from Vatja, dude, it would be sick. Like, I think it would be very interesting seeing a Bloodborne 2.
I've not seen stuff of Vati recently. What sort of stuff was the ideas for Bloodborne 2 that he had or theorized or?
So he had this I guess competition. I guess it was kind of a competition where he just reached out to, he was like, oh, art community, give your concepts, and then I'll just like make a video on, the top 10. And there was one specifically that my art buddy, Modern Day James, he actually talked to the guy. Like his idea was super intricate, like stupidly intricate, where like I won't do it justice, but basically the doll is like going through this kind of like barren desert world and trying to protect the slug, right, that we turned into at the end of Bloodborne. And it had like a very Dark Souls 3 kind of vibe to it, and like the sun is very much out, which is very different from the vibe that the first Bloodborne gave, right? And you're just kind of uncovering like more of the puzzle, like the origins of the Great Ones, as the doll, who's like now kind of like evil looking, is trying to protect the slug and raise another Great One. So yeah, I found the whole atmosphere to be incredible in this desert wasteland.
Can you remember what the video was titled, just in case people wanted to check that one out?
I think if you look up Vatia Bloodborne 2, you can probably find it. He did a premiere on Twitch and then probably uploaded it to YouTube. But yeah, that was one of the pieces that was tied with first place. There's like plenty of other ideas in there. That's just the one that I remember most, largely because my buddy had sent me the interview that they had with the guy.
Mentioned there about the mental aspect of these runs. Could you tell a time when a run was taking its toll and how you managed to get past it and get it?
Yeah, so Cuphead. I was about ready to just like lay it to rest for a little while. I mean, I had been taking breaks from it in general. Like, I mean, I already mentioned, I got the 6-hit run. And then I was like, you know what, let's go to DS2 and then Demon Souls will come back eventually. But so like I got 8 1-hit runs and I'd been like just grinding. And I was like, man, this is just getting too annoying. So I was like, I guess soon we'll just move on to DS1 all bosses if I don't get this, and we'll like come back to it. So yeah, I was like probably like a week or so away from just completely just taking a long break away from Cuphead again, before I got the run. Like Blasty actually commented on my video saying, like, cause like in the run I was like, we might move on to DS1 all bosses. Blasty's like, well, you got the run, so now you can move on without having to worry about getting the Cuphead run. So yeah, that was probably the most taxing, just because it was just, oh man, I had never at that point gotten that many 1-hit runs.
Would you say having some breaks helps keep you with that run for so long?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely it brings the joy back to it when you're starting to like really not enjoy that. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I'm trying to think if I've ever really taken break, like especially since I stream now like twice a week. I just kind of just do it. Like maybe on occasion I'll do like some like variety-esque stuff, like playing Super Meat Boy or like Little Nightmares, stuff like that. But for the most part, I just like stick to it. But I know a lot of people that will take breaks and then come back to it. Like I think with Gino, I mean, he also has a massive list of horribly difficult runs.
Yes.
He'll like, be grinding a game or like a run for, I don't know, like a week or two, and then he'll like move on to another one. And eventually come back if he hadn't gotten that run, So everyone operates differently. I was using Gino as an example, but I know plenty of other people that they're like, let me take a break and then I'll come back.
If I said most hype moment or excited or celebratory moment on your stream, what would be the first moment that comes to mind?
Trying to think. I mean, are we talking related to no-hit runs or just in general?
It doesn't have to be.
Trying to think. I definitely, with Cuphead, the rush was insane. That was great. Bloodborne 90% was pretty hype too, because I got that run in under 10 days.
Speedy.
And so chat was like, what the fuck, dude? They were like, how'd you do this so fast? But yeah, maybe the first time I got like a 1,000 plus person raid.
Who was it, out of interest?
Oh man, I forgot his name now. I think it was Tommy K Live. What is it, Hearthstone? I think he's like a big, or was a big Hearthstone streamer. And I was playing Witcher 3 at the time, and I think he was also playing it. And so he just decided to like send his people my way randomly. I had never known who he was before that. And chat was just lighting up. I was like, how do I keep up with this? I was like, what is happening? Because I think at that time I may have had, I don't know, 10 viewers. It still varies, right? Like if I switch games, I'll like be there too. But yeah, I think like literally like at that time as I was streaming, there was 10 people that were like hanging out. and like 3 people talking. So then it was like, I don't even know how many people. It was just like streams of text, and I was like, what's happening? Are my mods ready for this?
Yeah, I noticed that when I was doing some obviously research prior to the interview. I saw that peak on Witcher 3. I was like, what happened on that day?
Yeah. I think Ghost and Nexaries also hopped in. They're like, what the hell happened here? I'm like, massive raid, and they're like deuces. That's what's up.
I'm now just imagining like one of your viewers who's like gone on holiday for like 2 weeks, so going. So when's Bloodborne? Just like, oh no, Bloodborne was done. We did it last week.
Yeah, that one also. Yeah, that was I was like, I don't know how I did this so fast. I was like, after like the immense struggle with like the previous games, this was just like. But to be fair, I also had the time to just practice it a shit ton, and because of it being as algorithmic as it was just shadows at that point that was the blocker. So it was like, get past shadows and we're good. And since I didn't have a job at the time, easy to just practice forever. Now with a job, it's more difficult.
IRL gets in the way all the time.
Yeah, right. Imagine real life, dude.
What is this?
Yeah.
What's in the future plans of Klampscast?
So yeah, right now it's just focusing on DS3 all bosses. I want to try to get that before the end of the year, and then I am debating on whether I want to continue doing DS3. I probably won't, but just ideas. Or just go to like DS2 all bosses, or maybe just start doing Resident Evil. I'll probably end up going to not Resident Evil, DS2. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan right now is DS3 AB, then DS2 AB, and then try to mess around with Resident Evil. But who knows? Maybe I'll decide I want to do SL1 runs instead.
And if people wanted to check you out, where would they be looking?
Twitch.tv/Klampscast. I also have runs on YouTube under the same handle.
Yeah, so YouTube, Klampscast, as well as if you're interested in the math aspect we talked about, that's ModernDayMath, which you can also find in his About section of his Twitch.
Yeah, I put it there as just in case people are interested.
Klamps, I really appreciate the time. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you've done it as well, man.
Yeah, this was really cool, man. Thanks for having me on.
No worries at all. I hope everyone listening has enjoyed it as well. And have a good rest of your day, and shall catch you in the next episode. If you want to hear more interviews with amazing guests, be sure to head over to youtube.com/WayOfLoci, Loki spelled with a C, or wayofloki.com/NoHitPodcast.